X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Shawn X-Pac Waltman.
Everyone, joining us right now over the phone, one of my dearest friends, and the greatest of all time, Shawn, Michael, the Heartbreak Kid.
Heartbreak Kid.
Yeah.
I just want to hear his intro.
What was that, Shawn?
No, it just you sound so professional, and it's just wonderful. Your introduction there, with the exception of calling me the greatest of all time, you were spectacular.
Okay, well, who do you think the greatest of all time is?
It's amazing how well you come across.
Well, I mean, most people think you are the greatest of all time, Shawn. You know, I mean, the conversation
Yeah,
is
well, what do they know?
You and Rick. You and Rick, and we were just talking about Rick earlier. So, I mean, that's when the conversation comes up. It's either one of you two. So.
Yeah, well, that's always very sweet. But look, you know as well as I do, you're very biased.
Yes, I am.
Although I think the same about most of my buddies as well. I think we were all pretty decent at doing our job. It was a fun job to do, and we certainly enjoyed doing it, and especially with one another. So it was hard not to be good at that stuff when you're out there having so much fun.
No doubt, Shawn. Hey, it's so cool that you decided to. I was talking to Rory earlier, and he said, like, when he went out to your house, like, it didn't even show up on his GPS. It's nice to have you back in civilization, man, so we can see you once in a while.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, it was, it's, so on one hand, I miss the ranch, and I miss seclusion of where we were at. But, it's one thing for me to enjoy that. I want to be away from everything. The kids we're getting to an age, they're both teenagers and starting to, really, it's time for them to start living up, their dreams and their aspirations for their lives. And, that just wasn't conducive for that time in their life. And, we came to Florida on a vacation, and during the vacation, we just, Reg and I sort of decided that we liked the area, and the kids seemed to like it, and so we just thought, and we have she and I, from the day we've met each other, have, I married her, a couple weeks after I met her, and our whole life has been sort of like that. We've sort of just bebopped and skipped along through our lives, and decided, hey, let's move to Florida. It's time to go, and it's time to embark on something new in our life. And it's been an adventure the last 20 years, and clearly at 52, I mean, I'm not ready to stop doing silly things. So we went home and packed up and moved to Florida.
Hey, so did you decide to move to Florida before you got the call from Hunter to do the Performance Center and all that stuff?
Yeah. It was, I had, while I was here on vacation, I'd gone down and, made a couple of visits there, and way back when he started it, it was, something that he just sort of always touched on, as he's mentioned to all of us, hey, anytime you want to stop by, or you guys come in and,
sure,
add something, help something. And then, of course, when we talked about moving here, and then we were here for 3 weeks, so I had time to go down there and really just get a feel for everything that was going on there. Yeah. And once you have time to be around it, it's infectious. And honestly, Shawn, for me, I think the time away for me was good. After doing that job for 25 years, to have the time to go away and, I guess the thing is, I wondered if there was, you go through that stage of okay, I'm done wrestling now. Is there something else that I'm supposed to do? That's how I am. Is there anything else? I go back into my seclusion that I said, what am I supposed to
Do you think that, like, were you worried that maybe there wasn't a place for you in wrestling, that that the business passed us up, or?
Well, no. I guess the thing is, the only option that appeared to sort of be there again is to continue to, work with, at that time, there's always something there available from a WWE standpoint, but as you know, that can become, it's still very busy. And I wanted to really make sure that I got away from, I retired to come home and spend time with my wife and children.
Yeah.
And so for me, and again, I mean this all in a good way, but, anytime something, I could have been off and on vacation or whatever, and anytime something awry went wrong, I mean, they knew they could call me and then I'd jump in and fill in. And so when I did retire, I felt that I needed to be pretty adamant about the fact that I wanted to be away, because if I sort of skip in and out, everyone gets the impression, that you still want to be around. And the schedule, whether you try to start with just doing it once a month, it eventually creeps into 2 and then 4 and then 6, and before you know it, you're back in there all the time. And so for me, I just needed to be away. And then when we ended up moving to Florida, it was a real opportunity to still be around the business that I enjoyed, but do it again. I mean, I go there on a weekly basis, but I'm home every day.
Yeah.
I go there, 3 days a week and for a few hours, and then I'll go on the road here and there. But the TVs are all here, so it's almost the closest thing to a real job.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
that I'll ever do. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and
the
like
back
said,
and forth commute every day, like that's the whole. Like, yeah, it's so crazy hearing you say that.
Well, it is, like you said. I mean, and again, Hunter was. Look, it's one of those things that, he said, look, you tell me what how much you want to do or can do, and we'll go from there. And again, it was just a perfect situation, and of course, everybody there is spectacular. The environment is amazing, as you know, the times you've been around.
Yeah.
And dude, it's like that all the time. Again, and I guess you can't beat a job that you get to go to and where your dress attire is shorts, tennis shoes, and a tank top.
Yeah.
That's what I or a very loose fitting WWE shirt. It's just it really is just a spectacular place, and Matt and Sarah and everybody there is just absolutely wonderful. So it's a phenomenal environment, and as I say, it's something where I get the best of everything. It's still getting to be in the wrestling business, and certainly in a place again at the beginning, where before stuff gets a little busy, it gets a little tough, it gets a little more business oriented, all the things it's supposed to be. But here it's more of the the development, the training aspect, before it gets into that hustle and bustle of serious life, and that's the part of it that I enjoy. And as I say, they were fortunate enough to let me do it and feel like I could bring something to it. So it was hard not to to take advantage of that situation.
What is it that like when you first went down there and checked everything out? Did you think, was there any thoughts of, hey, I could add, this is something I could bring to the table here that they don't have going on right now? Was there anything like that you saw?
No, you know what? I mean, it's such a complete, I don't know, just a complete facility that they have there.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, Hunter's done a really good job, certainly doing his best to try to bring as many different attributes of what we would all refer to as the old territory days. Again, you've got a number of different coaches there from different eras, different styles, even different nationalities, so to speak, and still having that all under one roof. That's about the closest you can get to it, and then giving them the option of they've got sort of two separate groups. The much younger group does a lot of the shows around the Florida area, and the more advanced group, obviously goes darn near worldwide now. But it just really seemed like it was just a really well thought out, planned situation. So honestly, it appeared to me that they had just about everything covered. I guess the only thing, and it's certainly not anything that I picked up on, but it was something that that honestly that Hunter mentioned. He said, "Look," he said we don't really have a whole lot of people who have been. He said, with the exception of me, and he goes, and I only come down here it's once a month, and I'm running the place. He said, but we don't have a lot of people who have really been where you've been and have done what you've done. And he said, I just feel like you'll bring a different perspective. There's you've done a lot of WrestleManias. You've been through a lot of experiences, good, bad, and otherwise, and there is a value to that, and there's certainly a lot of do's and don'ts and goods and bads, and a lot of experience that you can certainly you feel like you can help guys with.
Yeah.
I like to think I sort of faced every possible situation that they're going to come up against, so it's more, I guess, trying to help them from that aspect. And it's very tough to do if you haven't been through it.
Yeah, a lot of the people that I talk to, Shawn, a lot of the talent there that have been, that have more experience, their favorite thing is to go to the tape studies that you do.
Well, I got to tell you, that's what's so. Again, I guess, when we used to sit there, we used to call it monitor time.
Yeah,
right?
monitor time.
We'd sit there.
Can we explain to that to everyone what that is? Like in the back, where all the talent would sit while TV is going on, and you're waiting for your turn, your segment or whatever. So they have the monitor, and we all sit at the monitor. Go ahead, Shawn. You can finish.
Right. Well, as you know, we'd all sit there, and obviously, a lot of it is fun, but you could, even though you're sitting there ribbing guys or whatever, or knocking something that's going on in the match, or liking something, you're like, ooh, holy cow, or even heck, I'm stealing that, whatever the case may be.
Or just ripping someone to shreds. Let's be honest with the people, Shawn. We would rip people to shreds. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, no, but
ourselves
but at the same
included.
time, you'd also sit there. Well, again, like you could sit there and also be like, dude, oh my goodness, how many matches are going to work a headlock?
Yeah.
You know what I mean, or something like that, or like,
That's right.
Oh my goodness, first 4 matches have done this, dude. I don't know what you guys are doing, but don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or what? And again, so now they've got, and we just had that at TV. That was it.
Yeah.
And as you know, at the live events, the only way you could watch any of the other matches was to stick your head outside the curtain. Find a place where you could go and stick your head out there and watch. But now they film every event, every live event, absolutely everything. Heck, they film stuff, at the performance center. And they do. I mean, they've got promo rooms, they got promo classes. They've got sort of like media train. It is just a full scale everything going on, and so now you're able to sit there and watch these matches that these guys had in Saginaw, Michigan, at a live event, and you can sit there and say again that, hey, this worked, that worked, and by the way, I get it. You're trying to save yourself for the big shows and everything else, but at the same time, dude, that looked like you phoned it in, or vice versa. Oh my goodness, don't kill yourself. Again, find it. Okay, you don't have to go off the top. How about just a regular, how about just a dive through the middle ropes? Again for Saginaw, and save the dive off the top for the takeover or whatever the case may be. So there's so much more access to what they have, and it's no different than any other sport. The more tape you could watch, and then of course there's a library of absolutely everything under the sun.
Wow.
And I tell you what I think is really cool is you can go back again, and everybody knows this match, but it's something that again because the business has changed and it evolves, and there's a lot of shut up old man River that doesn't work anymore. Yeah. Well, and again, and the thing is, look, I appreciate that because they told me to slow down. Every generation tells every generation to slow down. And then we all tell that old generation, shut your pie hole. You just can't keep up.
That's right.
And then, and then we all sort of get to a place to where we slow down a little bit, but not quite to the tempo they like it, but we find our footing. And the thing is, it wasn't too long ago, but I was just curious if if Savage Steamboat from WrestleMania 3, does it still pass muster all these years later with this young talent? And of course, it still does.
Yeah,
and that was, and you go back and I challenged some guys to find some stuff of Ray Stevens, and I had a guy find some stuff, and it's amazing, Shawn, when you see how ahead of the times some of these guys were. How again, Ray will be a guy that I think is, probably the original greatest of all time, and so before his time, and nobody even remotely, for the most part, puts him in any conversation because there's hardly anything out there of him, but he was, so visual and so amazing, all, in the 60s, and heaven forbid, he was doing stuff that, again, people think is still neat today.
He had the flip in the corner.
If you take, yeah, exactly. And he was doing that long before it was cool, and it was amazing then.
Hey, can you imagine if I would, like, okay, all those matches leading up to WrestleMania 10, all those ladder matches, man, that you guys had in those house shows, and none of them are on tape. And oh my God, I just think about if they were recording everything back then. Because some of those, man, like I heard you guys even say, some of those leading up to WrestleMania were better than the actual WrestleMania 10 ladder match.
For sure. Well, and it's funny, we were actually sort of, just discussing that today, because I had someone ask me. They said, look, wasn't there a time, again, when, whatever, for certain one reason or another, you sort of, whatever, you took it easy, you saved yourself, and whatever, didn't sort of go all out. And of course, I did it. It took me some time. I said, you know what, give me some time to think about that. And honestly, I came back a couple of days later. I said, look, I gave it some serious thought. And I said, when I came back, after I came back in 2002, yes, I eventually got there. There were times that, heck, I'd be working a live event on a Sunday afternoon, and it'd be me and Sheamus in the main event, and I would say something like, Sunday's the day of rest. I'm not going to drop the elbow tonight. You know what I mean? I'm going to save the hip for TV tomorrow, and so no elbow, but everything else I'm going to do. But going back to from 92 to, or even 88 when Marty and I first got there, till I left in 98. I can't remember a time when I consciously remember thinking to myself I was going to take it easy, because that was our whole problem with
with the guys that were a little older than us.
Right. We felt that they were doing that, so we just went crazy gung ho every dang night. And of course, that's what that night, that day, I used that as an example. I said, everybody always talks about the fact Scott and I had ladder matches all over the place. And I said, do you honestly think I wasn't taking the slam off of the top of the ladder in every live event?
Yeah.
Or do you honestly think I wasn't taking the nut,
the nut on the ropes, getting caught in the ropes? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, we were doing that stuff every night in every house show in the ladder match. I said, that certainly didn't, everybody thought it was nifty at WrestleMania 10, and nobody accused us of taking it easy that night. I said, that's all the same stuff we did in live events all over the country before we did that stuff. So, but again, not to, I don't want to give anybody, to imply in any way that you shouldn't be saving yourself, and certainly that is, you certainly should. But I'm just saying we didn't have enough sense back then. When you're trying to make the road to the top of the mountain, so to speak, certainly for us, there wasn't a lot of nights off in that respect, because we all hadn't.
And especially on that billiard,
we hadn't
billiard
there
table
yet.
ring. The hardest ring in the history of the business, except for Tijuana. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, Shawn, you were able to have such incredible matches with Kevin Nash and Psycho Sid. How were you able to showcase their abilities and their talents that maybe others couldn't bring out?
Well, I always sort of appreciate people I'm thinking that's some kind of nifty thing to do, but I always, and I think, that kid will tell you that. I mean, working with big guys was always pretty easy because the story was so simple. It's so visually easy to tell. The David and Goliath thing is something that, has worked since the beginning of time and continues to work today. And so that was, as long as you ran fast around those guys, and then let them knock your block off, it was usually, actually pretty darn easy and fun to do, because it was a simple story that people could easily understand. Someone that big beating up someone, considerably smaller, is an easy thing for people to believe. So honestly, working with the big guys was always enjoyable to me, and because again, it was an easy story to tell, and so now it's just a matter of how you want to go about telling it. A lot of times, that's where a lot of the work is done, is trying to figure out your, as we say in the wrestling business, figure out your psychology for the match. That one's built in, and so when you sort of get to check that box right away, now it's just a matter of figuring out how you want to go about doing that. And you get to spend the rest of your time thinking about how you can do that in a way that's maybe different than the way you've done it before. And that's really, all it comes down to, because it's very simple for people to understand that big guy beating the tar out of that other guy.
Shawn, did you like being a good guy better or a bad guy better? Because you, especially when you came back after your layoff, you were pretty much a good guy the entire time, but man, you were a great bad guy also. What did you like? What did you like doing better?
I don't know anybody. I'd be hard pressed to find anybody that doesn't like being a bad guy better than being a good guy.
Yeah.
Because it's I don't want to say it's easier, because clearly, certainly at one time there was a lot more responsibility on the bad guy, in regards to controlling the match and the tempo and having a feel for the people and things of that nature. But creatively, I think people feel more at ease being a bad guy, because almost you feel like, whether it's true or not, but it whether it's true or not, sort of irrelevant. You feel as if you can do anything.
Yeah.
And that, to me, honestly, is sort of the key to this line of work anyway, is being free enough with yourself, secure enough with yourself to understand that you can do just about anything and have it add to the match and the character. As a good guy, that's a lot more challenging, especially these days, because that good guy sort of persona, depending on how it is you play it, it's a lot tougher line to walk now than it once was. As I think we all know that the good old fashioned kissing babies and hugging gals and stuff like that only goes so far, and then people turn on it for the most part.
Yeah.
So as a good guy, it is more challenging how you can do that. One of the things that certainly helped me when I came back is time and tenure. Always help. You sort of get to a point to where your nostalgia carries over a lot of things they may or may not like, or you know what I mean. And certainly for me, sort of always incorporating so much of my real life in that. Yeah, you could say it's too namby-pamby and too this and too that, but one of the things that sort of helped was that, well, we've seen him, he's gone through a bunch of wars, he's had a lot of time, he works pretty hard. I mean, there were enough things that garner enough respect and admiration from the people where they don't sort of dump on you as hard as they would when you were. They're much more forgiving at 40 than they are at 25.
I'm almost to the point where these days, like, I don't think it's a good idea to introduce anyone as a baby face, because unless you're established, like, it's really hard for people to get behind. Like you were saying, like, it takes that tenure and that familiarity and that emotional equity that takes time,
Well, look, it's very tough for a lot of guys. I'm one guy that does it right now and does it very well, and is one of those guys that can get away with a lot of the stuff you're talking about, is Johnny Gargano.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, well, but he's a Daniel Bryan-esque, again, type, where, Daniel, Bryan could still get away with it, because there was enough grit to him and things that they liked. And again, it always helps. Nowadays, it helps, believe it or not, when you're smaller. Yeah. Because we've done a decent enough job over the years of establishing that whole, that smaller guy isn't going to get a break. They're going to keep him down, and so that now helps him in a way that did not help as much in our era, because yes, it had been a little bit established, but certainly. It wasn't, we were the ones doing our best to try to establish it, and it hadn't been completed yet. And you know what I mean? So, but to your point, kid, I mean, that there aren't, it is very difficult, especially sort of if they feel like you haven't earned it, that's for sure.
Yeah. Hey, also, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you can go, that's fine.
Well, I was going to say, I just had it. Oh, you trained Daniel Bryan. When he first walked into the Texas Wrestling Academy, did you think he would be the person he is today and have the following he does now?
Well, I mean, I don't think you have any idea as far as how far they'll go or the impact that they'll have. But I knew right away, him and Spanky were were just. They worked too hard and were too good at it at a very early age to not have some success. And the one thing that I told them then, and it all proved to be true, that again, the one thing that was going to work against them was their size. And that was just a realistic attribute of the wrestling business. But no, certainly not to the extent that he did. But once it started to happen, certainly didn't surprise me, because the thing is, we gave him, again, this was at the very beginning. We gave him, again, just the tools and more importantly, just the idea of being able to get in. He was the one that got well rounded, and I can remember, taking him to Japan the first time, and again, he was, him and, Spanky, I refer to him as Spanky because he's Brian too, so, but they were already interested in that, and they were already guys that were interested in learning different styles. They had an interest in Japanese wrestling, and so that's all you can do is tell them, look, guys, all you got to do, you got to go to these different places, and that's a decision, to get more well-rounded in, in those styles, because again, by that time in the States, you didn't have the opportunity like we did to work with guys from Europe and Japan and different places right here in the States. Now you had to go over, you had to go to Japan, you had to get booked in, in the UK and things of that nature. And I got to be honest, one of the best things that he ever did was, because Regal knows everybody. I mean, Steve Regal knows everything about the wrestling business, and heck, Shawn will tell you, that's one thing. I've been doing this for 30 years, but I don't know anybody. I've worked in one place.
Yeah, he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
He left that to the rest of us.
The thing is, and I've never been a good, I'm also not good. I don't keep cards. I don't, I'm not a good, whatever they call it.
You're not into sentimental stuff? Sentimental keepsakes?
Well, no, but I mean, but again, keeping people that you might, need to know and, know this and know that.
You're not a
and
schmoozer.
know this guy,
Not
know
a good
that guy.
schmoozer.
Yeah, well, I just don't know how to do any of that. I'm not, good at it. I found the one place I wanted to be, and that was that. And so I just, I don't know. I never had an opportunity. Like at 23 years old, I was with the WWE. I knew I didn't want to go anywhere. So there's really no sense in meeting or getting to know other people, or getting contacts and stuff like that. And and I never knew that I was going to be training people one day, or or have people seek me for like, hey, can you help me out here, help me out there? Like I said, that's what's even in those smaller training days. Heck, it was, I want to say it was PJ. It was just incredible that that helped us get the ECW hookup, because I was just trying to find my guys different work and different places to go, other than just there in Texas. And truthfully, I didn't know anybody. I just don't. I don't. And I never had to do that thing where you had to get yourself booked. I'd never worked the indie scene or any of that stuff. So, believe it or not, I was limited in what I could do. It was, like I said, I was able to get a lot of them on the WWE radar and with the little WWE developmental thing that they had at the time. But after that, it was going to be them having to find people that knew people, because I honestly did not, have a great deal of contacts in that respect. All I know is WWE people.
Hey, Shawn, when going back to Johnny Gargano, the match that he had at TakeOver, did you produce that?
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. I got
you written all over it, man.
All the guys that are in my, I mean, well, the guys that are in my class, my name is never on anyone's match as producer. Right. That's one of the things they allow me to do is, I get to do the Pat Patterson thing where I float. That's right. And sort of go from, place to place, to match, and so, yeah. I mean, they had some just phenomenal stuff, laid out, and I just threw in some things here and there, like, ooh, my, and one of the things that I so totally love about, sort of this generation, some of the stuff they do is phenomenal. And the thing is, it's become their normal. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think there are times that it's their normal, so they don't know how phenomenal it is. It's just something like, oh yeah, we can do that all the time. And so just trying to get them to like, dude, that's impressive. So we got to do that, and you got to give us time. That's stuff we got to talk about. You know what I mean? And if you go into something else right away after you do that, they've got to call the action. Yep. So stop right there. Figure out. I don't care what you sell, do whatever it is you got to do, but give us time to tell that story, because that is freaking phenomenal. And so that's honestly the areas, helping them with. They put together great matches, helping them to also build that into a really phenomenal story, and put some psychology behind it. I hope that's where I help.
Man, there was a lot of bada bing, bada boom, like all that stuff that Pat used to. It had that feeling, man. All those big moments in the match, and just it, like I said, it had you written all over it, Shawn. And the whole card, man.
As you know, as Pat used to do, we would have a bunch of stuff. It would be cool, and then Pat would just rearrange it. Yep. In a way that, like, you don't understand. You do this, but then it builds to this, and then you do this, and then it builds to that, and so that's where I learned it from. It's like, ooh, that's right. When he managed to put it in a way we had a bunch of cool stuff in there, but he was able to put it in there in a way that it all built and fed into the other and built to this big, huge culmination at the end. And again, that's the thing that's what I enjoy most out of it, because again, you aren't, to me, again, and the generation after them will I'm sure up the bar, but I feel like this generation of guys is just, they do some just spectacular stuff, and to me, they do stuff I can't do. So I'm not of the ilk of like, geez, slow, they can slow down a little bit, but they'll do that when they're ready.
That's right.
Or when they want to, But
Shawn, sorry.
It's all about building it in a way that tells a great story.
Well, speaking of the young generation, back when you started your career after the Rocker split, I wanted to know where the inspiration for HBK came from, and also when you were paired up with Sensational Sherry, I wanted to know where the idea came from, because she wasn't really paired. She was paired more with main eventers during that time. So how did that connection come through as well?
You don't read my tweets, do you, Denise?
HBK came from the Kurt Hennig music art.
Let him answer it.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. No, well, but honestly, so, Kirby's the one with the name, but so Sherry, so Marty and I, we do the split, and I believe we had some kind of tour. I want to say it was like a Japan tour thing where we were doing stuff with Tenaru. And went over and did some stuff there. I came back and received a phone call about how they were putting me with Sherry, and I got the music and stuff like that. And gosh, I remember them playing it for me, and then them putting, Sherry had gone out on TV and done the promo, talking about me and put herself with me, and I just wasn't sure. They were starting to do stuff when I was trying to figure out who I was and what I was going to be, and I'm in my whole, hey, I'm trying to find myself, away from the Rockers. Got to give me time to do that, and again, Pat Patterson, he said, look, Sherry's been with two guys, okay? DiBiase and Savage, both top guys.
Yep.
She's going to raise your stock, okay? We put you with her because she's going to raise your stock. You get put next to her, that's going to put you on another level. And I was like, oh. And then, of course, Sherry and I were friends from the AWA days, and so the next TV I got a chance to talk with her, and I just asked her, like, okay, and it was one of the things, Sherry was just a wonderful woman. And I said, you've always been, I don't know if you know this, but you're sort of hot, so I was thinking about dressing you up this way, and would you be comfortable with that, and putting you in the high boots? And she's like, dude, whatever you want, man, I'm down for, I'm into this and want to do it. And she was just spectacular.
She was.
I mean, that's honestly where we went to from there. And it started out with, the boy toy thing, but then them putting her with me, it sort of gave me a direction. Again, back then, I don't think they were called Cougars back then. No. But clearly there was that was the vibe that we were sort of given with she and I going out there with one another. But that gave me a direction. Again, it gave me clearly, I don't want to, it sounds silly to say now because I'm 52 and old, but it gave me a sexual component that I wasn't aware I was going to have. But because I was with her, it gave me that area, and that's when I, again, with the gear and everything else, started doing the dancing and junk like that. And then you couple that with, again, Kurt, talking about the Heartbreak Kid thing and playing the song for me and then telling me he said it. And even, truth be told, I wasn't even thrilled about, I just don't know about the Heartbreak Kid name. It seemed, all of it seemed a little bit too, again, straight pretty boy thing. Yeah. And none of us, no matter who we are, none of us want to see ourselves that way unless we're in real life. We think we're that way, and truth be told, in real life, I don't. You know what I mean? But it just, I was on a promo, and Heartbreak Kid just came out, and it flowed, and it felt so right. And then after that, I just so got into all of it that it went ahead and took care of itself from there. But honestly, none of that was done in the branding type way that it's done now. They did, in a way. It was all these things sort of coming together and me feeling my way through it and getting comfortable with it is how it came across. That's why it always took so long to sort of trade for the, if you go back in history, Heartbreak Kid was never really on the screen that much at the beginning, even though, we'd have it on my jacket and stuff like that, because we hadn't branded it, we hadn't trademarked it and all that other kind of stuff until it was something that we knew where I was going, it was the hook. It was the thing that was going to be me. So in a sense, they did allow me to sort of grow into it, which is, they don't really do that now for the most part. You're sort of branded as something and you keep that established. But this was a time when, they gave you a little bit of time to sort of feel your way through that stuff. And again, looking back on it, it was absolutely, I couldn't have been more fortunate to have that opportunity, because I really didn't. I knew that I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what it was, and I didn't have a real positive direction. And honestly, with all of that, and then of course, to me, in my mind, that was like, okay, that guy is a combination between Freddie Mercury and Elvis and Boy George are all mixed together.
Yeah.
And that's sort of, how that all came about. It's a long-winded answer, but that is
That's okay.
honestly about how it all came about.
It made me think of your gear, Shawn, because Julie Youngberg makes the best gear of anyone in the, nothing against anyone else, but Shawn had his own private chest with all his own gear, and the best gear of anyone in the crew. and that's a huge deal, Shawn. That was and the reason why I brought that up, Shawn, is because I remember a couple of different times you trusted me to carry your stuff and air it out for you and bring it to you the next day. You ever remember that?
Vaguely.
And so, the next day when we got to the building, you had to wrestle in really stinky, smelly gear because I never aired it out for you because I passed out. Oh my God, you were so mad at me. And then you trusted me to do it one more time. Guess what? You wore stinky gear again.
Shows you what I knew, right?
Well, we talked about.
Well, but think about that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we talked about young talent and up and comers. I wanted to know what's your opinion on the Young Bucks and any interaction you've had with them.
Oh, that's a good question.
You know what? I don't know them. And the thing is, I did a podcast and I was unaware. I saw them tweet it that and clearly they're right, and I do remember it. There was a time, I believe there was a time they had a tryout, and Marty, again, called me before that and let me know they were going to be there. And of course, at TV, there's so much going on. But that's the only. It was many years ago, and I sincerely, I want to say it was somewhere in California. I could be wrong. But to them and everybody, I apologize. I have met them, but it was a pretty brief encounter. But I hear nothing but great things about them. Phenomenal workers. I hear that about them and that Kenny Omega kid.
Yeah.
And look, I always I get it that people don't want to be part of the WWE for one reason or another, and their freedom of expression and wanting to be artists and all that kind of stuff. And I totally 100% understand that. I guess I am selfish in the fact that if I just want the most talented guys that are doing this line of work to be able to do it in a place where they can reap the most for it. And I know that there are people that think they're making a phenomenal living away from the WWE, and I have no doubt that they are. But I still feel like I hope there comes a day when all those guys will come to the WWE and have the opportunity to do it on the bigger stage. So again, because I'm just one of those guys that I enjoy the world being able to appreciate what it is we do, and if you can do it at a phenomenal level, I like everybody to see that. And we're the place, the WWE is the place where you can show that, and that's not to take anything away from anybody else. It's just it is that way. And also, I want them to have, like if a dude like me can make money doing this stuff, then certainly those guys can. And I get that they're making money now and all that, but you can create a brand in the WWE that continues long after you stop wrestling. And that's something I didn't know. And I guess that's the thing that I can tell you after a decade of being retired. I get that you feel like you've made great money, but wait till the days that you stop,
Yeah.
and then you wonder if you can still make great money. And if you're in the WWE, you can stop, and 10 years later, you can still be making pretty darn decent money.
Speaking of that, I don't know if you saw it, Shawn, but like over the weekend, a UFC fighter hit Sweet Chin music during a fight, and they actually called it Sweet Chin music. And
No way.
They did, and he actually, I think he tweeted to you, Shawn, and said, "Did you see this? I hit Sweet Chin music."
I'm not sure that they said it, but yeah, it was it James Vick? I think, right?
Yeah, James Vick at UFC Austin. Yeah.
Wow.
So you're still relevant.
No, I did.
Did he tune up the band first?
The dude's like, I want to say he's like 6'7" or something like that. I mean, he's a big kid, big tall kid. And no, he did. He tweeted me a picture of it. And of course, the thing is, that guy, I watch that stuff all the time. And but of course, it's different when when somebody stops it and does a screenshot of it. One could argue, there are a lot of guys that do that during a fight, but it was to watch a dude that's 6'7" do it. And look, just the fact that, that they watch our stuff, because I mean, I certainly watch theirs. And I don't know. I'm always appreciative. That's what I hear about those, the young buck guys, that they do the super kick and all that. And I just, I think that's cool. I get that everybody, whatever. I guess there's, people feel like it's done too much, and look, you can make that argument all day long if you want, but I guess for a guy that I feel like most of them were watching me when they were younger, that's look, that's nice. And so they can beat it into the ground. It's certainly never going to offend me, for heaven's sake.
Did you get much?
I just never I never thought I'd have that kind of impact on anybody. So the fact that they thought it was neat enough to do, I think, is pretty cool.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Did you? This is Rory. Did you get much feedback at all? Like there was a lot I saw online of your appearance in the Ric Flair 30 for 30. People were like, really thought you had a really strong appearance in the film, and just wondering if anyone gave you feedback and if you heard anything from Rick, and if you guys have been in touch since his whole kind of health scare.
Oh yeah, heavens yes. Yeah, no, I mean I obviously texted him right away and just told him I knew that he was getting inundated with it, but whenever he felt like he could give me a buzz to do that. So no, we've talked several times since, because as you know, Rory, I'm worried about the man. I mean, the guy, my friend, and look, how much I care about him. We see things in the wrestling business a little bit differently, but that's a generational thing, and I get it. That's the one thing, as the generations go on, and I like to think our generation, we were the last bit of it, guys holding on to a lot of that. Heck, Shawn and I were talking about it at the 25th anniversary. A lot of those, a lot of that old school mentality. Not all of them.
I'm glad. I was going to bring this up. I'm glad you're bringing this up, Shawn. Keep going.
Yeah, it was just, it wasn't right. It wasn't correct. You don't forsake everything in life for the business.
Yeah.
That's silliness. No one does that. And to do your best to convince someone that if they don't do that, they're not worthy of doing the job, is simply not true, and at the very least, unbelievably unfair and manipulative, at its least. So one can be incredibly faithful and dedicated and love this line of work and still not forsake everything about their life, their personal life, their health, their financial stability, everything because of it.
Or compromise their
and
values.
That was the mentality.
Or compromise our values. Because that's the one thing that we were talking about the other night at Raw 25 is like so many of the things like that and I say we, like, and I don't mean everyone when I say we, but like that a lot of us would do are things that like I wouldn't even think of doing now, and I'm so grateful that that's a thing of the past. That part had to die.
And look, and to be fair, some of that responsibility is on us as well for being dumb enough to buy into it. I mean, so I don't want to lay the blame on anybody's, porch other than my own. It was, I was the one that chose to like, okay, and it's no different than giving into peer pressure. I mean, that the people that are pressuring you are wrong, but you also are being dumb enough to believe it are equally as wrong. And so, I, take credit, certainly, take responsibility for my part in all that. But again, there was certainly a different mentality, I think, than there is now. And I, for one, enjoy the one that's there now. At the very least, our generation is not trying to pass on any of those negative things to the next generation if we can possibly help it. And so, as I say, Rick sounded wonderful the last time I talked to him. I'm thrilled about that. But the comments I got was the entire thing was powerful. I mean, that's more than anything. You did a heck of a job. I thought it was fair. I thought it was revealing. Look, is it some of it? Is it tough? But yes, the reality is, the reality of life sometimes is a little tough. And that's what I enjoy. A lot of those 30 for 30s are pretty decent. But I thought you did a really good job, and I thought it was incredibly fair, and I thought you painted a good picture, and I hope he was happy with it.
No, I think he
thought
is.
you guys did a really good job.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm still thankful that you participated in it. And hey, I mean, like Rick's, I think Rick's sober for the first time probably since he's like 11. So that's so he's living a cleaner life now, and
When Rick saw Scott and I at Raw 25, he was like, "Oh, this happened to me," and I look at you guys, and you guys are still alive. What the f?
And that's the thing. Look, so on one hand, it is we're not all, but certainly my group of buddies.
Yeah.
We all went through it, and I guess that's the thing. But we also hung out with a bunch of guys that didn't make it through.
That's right.
And so it's one of those things that certainly for me, it's the only thing, whatever I was getting, I'm trying to pat myself on the back about anything, but I just, the only thing that I remotely come close to doing is I was given a second chance, and there's absolutely no way I'm screwing it up or looking for a third or a fourth or anything else. And so whatever it takes, and it's almost never fun, and Kid can attest to this, whenever that day comes that you have to face yourself with the person that you've become. It isn't fun. It isn't a fun experience, but it's not supposed to be. It's the catalyst that changes everything around. And if it doesn't 100% totally suck, it's probably not going to stick. It's just that simple. So, I tell you what, Roy. I mean, if nothing else, dude, you got to at least know that that you were a part of something that geez, dude, I mean, I get it, it's wrestling and everything's cool, and wrestling and sports and entertainment and all that other junk, but there's nothing more impactful than changing somebody's life for the better. And if you had a part in doing that, dude, I'm not you, but I would tell you can die a good and faithful man in that respect, because not a lot of people can say that.
Wow, man. I mean, I don't know if I could take credit for that, but that's really. We were actually talking before the show, and I was telling Shawn, I admired just watching how you were with your kids. You were super affectionate with your kids, and I remembered you telling, I think maybe it was before the interview, just that, wrestling, you thought it was silly that if someone would put it ahead of their family and their kids, and you seem to be living life pretty good, and kudos to you.
Sweet.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, again, I tell her I blame that woman. I blame that woman.
Hey, Shawn, we're gonna wrap.
I was a cool dude until I met her.
Shawn, we're gonna wrap this up. Let you get to your family, but I want to give everyone a chance to get you one last question. Go ahead, everyone.
Well, I know Anissa had a really good question. Mark, will you turn on her mic? Sorry.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, there she is.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So you and Triple H had a great rivalry, and when you retired, you chose The Undertaker. How come it wasn't Triple H?
Well, you know what? I mean, I didn't choose him. It was, again, and I got to say, so much of my career, believe it or not, just wasn't planned. So many things happened by happenstance, and again, and I can go back and I look at my entire life, and how that happened when it comes to, meeting a woman and asking her to marry me in 2 weeks, and 20 years later, still being married and still in, more in love with that woman than I was when the day I married her. But so, it turned out that we had that phenomenal match in Houston, and I just remember driving home with Rebecca and the kids, and I told her, and I just I said, man, that might have been the one that ended on. I said, I just feel so at peace with everything. I said, I think I could, for the first time ever, I could walk away from this and be unbelievably satisfied. And I just, I miss you guys. I miss spending time with you guys. And I don't know. I felt okay with this. I don't know. Everything was lighter. Everything just felt good. And she just said, well, that's, she said, well, maybe it's something we should talk about. After she's like, really? And so, something I thought about that summer while I was off. And then I got a call from Michael Hayes talking about possibly doing a return and maybe I can put my career on the line as a stipulation. And don't worry, we can still work around it and blah, blah, blah. We knew the whole wrestling thing where nobody's career is ever really over. And so all these things just sort of started falling into place. And for me, it's one of those things, again, I blame the woman, but my faith and everything else, things I feel like fall into place for me for a certain reason. And one of the things I try to do in my life now is I try to go where I'm led. If I feel like life is, again, much like coming here to Florida, man, I've got no loyalties to Florida, for God's sake. My loyalties are in Texas and my frickin' ranch, but I got up and left it. But felt like that's where, again, we call it being called. Just felt like it was time to do that. It was time to, be somewhere else for the lives of my children. And so, anyway, that's just where all this was leading to it. And so that's honestly how it came about. And then, I've told the story of whatever the Slammies were coming up, and I just happened to ask them whether we were going to do that match or not. And they're like, oh my goodness, we don't know. And I said, I'm just going to go out there and challenge him, and we'll figure out what we're going to do. And anyway, that's how Undertaker and I both found out we were wrestling at WrestleMania. It was me going out there in October, I think, receiving a Slammy for the match of the year before, and I challenged him again. And we just didn't put the stipulation on it. And then as time went by, I just, I said, go ahead and put the stipulation on it, and I was good with, leaving.
I was curious what your thoughts were after WrestleMania 14, the next night on Raw, seeing Shawn come take your place in DX.
Nobody takes Shawn Michaels' place in DX. I had my own spot. Let's get that straight real quick.
No, you know what? I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, again, I guess so. The funny thing is, I guess I thought you were gonna say, "What were your feelings after WrestleMania 14?" I was just saying, like, oh my goodness, the complete opposite of the ones I had about the retirement. One was so at peace, and the other one was like, oh my God. Right. But no, and so the next night, Hunter comes out. I had no insight as to what it is, what they were going to do. I'd heard Shawn, was done with WCW, but I didn't know what it was they were going to do, how they were going to, how Hunter was going to sort of, go on from there. They had certainly talked about it with him, but I didn't know how it was going to continue after that. And so I don't know. I just thought they did a great job of seamlessly picking it up off of such a big sort of run, into WrestleMania. And certainly, it's funny. Of all the stuff I was, and I guess look, it's the difference between your buddies and people that aren't. It was just,
right.
I was curious to see. It's funny because people have always wondered, like, did you get upset when I said you dropped the ball and this, that, and the other? And I thought, no, I mean, when your buddies throw you under the bus, you're not, they're not really throwing you under the bus. You know what I mean? And that's just something we always understood that stuff. We never took anything from the business standpoint personal on one another. It just never, or it certainly didn't to me. I mean, those guys, I guess because of everything that they gave me in those years that I look back on, I think, God, I'd have never made it without those guys. There just was, they'd have to, and I'm not even sure because sometimes she makes me mad. They'd have to murder my mom to really get me to, I don't know, to turn on them, or be upset with them or something, I was just thrilled that they seamlessly picked it up. They came out with something that was Impact. It was new. It was one of our buddies. And to be perfectly honest, I got to say, to me, that version of DX, and I'll always go back to when they imitated the Nation. I think that was absolutely the best, version of them. You know what I mean? As much as, again, when Hunter and I and China, and Rude were doing it, it was new, it was innovative. We were heels, and it was very cool. But there was not a better babyface faction than that version of DX with Kid and Hunter and China and Road Dogg and Billy. It was just, they were so incredibly entertaining at that time. So it was nothing but, thrilled and positive, especially the fact that, Kid was back.
Yeah, that was the fun part for me. I just about had a brain fart again. But what I was thinking about was some of the moments that we had in DX. I was thinking about when we invaded WCW. Would you have been all in on that or what?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I get that now. Again, I think we've all just become so desensitized to it. But gosh, you don't know how unbelievably cutting edge, and I mean, I don't know. And I guess maybe it's because I was in the wrestling business and knew how serious that war, quote unquote war was.
Yeah.
But that was huge. I thought, oh my goodness. And then to find out, because it's one thing to pretend like you're doing it, it's another thing to actually be doing it. You were at their building.
That's right.
And that to me was such phenomenal television. And to me, that's what always gets me. That's what I enjoy. Again, and that's, again, even in that time, we were doing such innovative and cool television at that time. It was really hard not to enjoy it. And like I said, I enjoy any television that's done well.
Yeah. Say, Shawn, you were just on, and we're going to get going here. We're really going over time, but what you mentioned was that, you said you couldn't have done it without us. I feel the same way, man. Like, I honestly, I don't think any of us could have done what we did without each other. To the point, the heights that we made it.
I won't disagree, man.
And I just think that, guys, that they would do themselves a service by and I think some guys are kind of taking that model and trying to do their own thing like that, like the guys that work for, the girls, the Charlotte and those girls, and some of the guys that behind the scenes are kind of a crew and they stick together.
Yeah, well, again, and I never thought in a million years that I don't know, our group of buddies would start something, again, even I don't know, within and outside of, I don't know, we didn't, that wasn't our plan. We were just dudes that were hanging out with each other, and it became this entity unto itself, which is cool. But it all started from a pretty simple place, and that is, it was, there's a bunch of dudes that, I don't know, that needed each other at a particular time and leaned on each other and counted on each other. And I don't know, I mean, for us, that's the closest thing to, I don't know, bonding and a friendship that, I don't know. It's the greatest one I'll ever experience in my lifetime.
I agree, man.
Look, I'm taking it with me to my grave, and I'm thrilled to do it.
That's why you're spending 2 hours with me over the phone as soon as you get home from work after a drive down the I-4 corridor. But I'm so grateful that you did, Shawn, and I saved you. I had you in my back pocket, and I saved you for a special occasion, and that's today. And thank you, man. I love you very much. I love you so much, Shawn, and I thank you, man, for spending your time with us today.
Well, I love you, buddy, and apologize to your entire crew there for me talking so long. But this is what we did in the car
That's it, man.
for years
here
and
for
for hours on end. So, and it still goes on today. So sorry about that.
No, man.
Don't be sorry.
Hey, is there anything before we go that you want to talk, like anything before you, like social media plugs? I know you're not really that type, but anything?
No.
No? All right. All right, man.
Yeah.
Well,
Anytime you can throw out there that I'm the greatest of all time, I love it.
all right. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest of all time. Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels. Thank you, sir.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later. All right.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot.
Okie dokie. One piss break in the middle, and we're all good.
That was a great interview.
Yeah, hey, and thank you so much for sitting in on that,
Oh, man,
Rory.
that was awesome.
And thank you to everyone that tuned in our first official episode on Westwood One and the Jericho Network.
Yeah.
And so we'll see y'all right here next week on X-Pac
Well,
1, 2, 3.
big thank you to
sorry.
you.
Yeah, sorry.
Big thank you to you for keeping this podcast going and never just throwing in the towel after 75 episodes and being like, I don't want to spend my week hanging out with these guys anymore. So
Yeah.
thank you for letting
thank
us
you.
do this. We really appreciate it. If you want to share your thoughts about the episode, use the hashtag XPac12360 on all forms of social media. Anything else you want to send to us at xpac12360@gmail.com. You want to talk about
go
your
ahead.
upcoming events?
Yeah, go ahead real quick.
So, Richland Township Fire Department is presenting Communities Against Addiction Breaking the Cycle, Saturday, February 24th at 1 p.m. in Jonestown, PA. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Tickets are available at eventbrite.com. They're free. Or you could reserve your spot. Call the number 1717-361-1660. That's 1717-361-1660. And you also have a show that you're not wrestling at the show.
I am. I'm in a tag match.
You're in a tag match for One Fall Wrestling, March 16th. Tickets are available. You can go on their Facebook, the number 1 FW Wrestling, or you can call 190-770-0208 and reserve your tickets there.
All right. TK? Oh, sorry.
All right, you guys can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at _Denise Salcedo.
All right.
Okay, so you can follow us on Twitter, The Real X-Pac, IG, X-Pac12360, Facebook, X-Pac12360 Show. Also sign up for the newsletter. Don't forget to put your comments on YouTube, 5 stars, all that good stuff. And I am still training for the marathon. It's happening. I'm raising money for water pumps in Africa, so if you want to donate, you can just go under my bio at everything at TK Trinidad.
And she's also got a GoFundMe where she's trying to raise some money for some cough drops.
Yes. Yeah, I need some of those too.
And Rory?
Does that dog have a Twitter? That
She
dog,
does.
It's Baby Lula.
That's a great dog. Oh
the
my
best.
God, is that a dog sweater?
Yeah, it is.
That's awesome. I'm on Twitter at Rory Carf, and check out Coach Soup on Netflix, please.
Yes. All right, everyone. This time for sure. We'll see you right here next week on X-Pac 12360.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Shawn Waltman, producers Mark Donica, Jimbo Frank, and TK Trinidad, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. Follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com.